Present.
Vice Chair Zimmerman. Here. Commissioner Leparn. Here. Commissioner Lewis. Here. Commissioner O'Neill.
Present.
Commissioner Reisinger.
Here.
Commissioner Wilson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Please join me in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. We're going to move to item 1, approval of the minutes. 1A, approval of the minutes from April 22nd, 2025. And I get a motion to either approve or deny? Motion. Okay, don't forget to use your mic.
Motion to approve.
And a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Item 2 is call to the public, comments from the public. Those wishing to address the commission should fill out a request form in advance. Comments from the public will be restricted to items not on the agenda with the exception of those on the consent agenda. There will be no comments allowed that advertise for a particular person or group. Comments should be limited to no longer than 3 minutes. The commission may not respond to speakers during the call to the public. The commission may direct staff to study the matter or request that the matter be placed on future agendas. Ms. Lewis, do we have anything for call to the public today?
No, there were none.
Perfect. We're going to move to action item 3A, Master of Urban and Environmental Planning, the MUEP project for 2026. Vice Chair Zimmerman would like the Commission's feedback on topics for the next ASU Master of Urban and Environmental Planning project. This is going to be for discussion, possible action, and I have a note here if you wouldn't mind stepping down to the podium.
I have to step down there.
That's, yeah, it's a protocol.
Okay.
Have enough room to get through? Yep.
Okay. Am I on?
You are on.
This item is twofold. One is to have a little bit of a discussion on what we thought of the performance of the group that just completed a project. I hope all of you saw the presentation at the last city council meeting. The idea is that this is an opportunity for us to get feedback from a younger generation, a generation of students who are studying specifically urban planning. It also gives them an opportunity to present in front of a live commission or in a council. Did everyone have a chance to see some of that, or can I get a general idea of what people thought of? Did we get value from this? If we didn't get value, then we don't want to do it again. But if we did, is it worth it?
Commissioner Zimmerman, if I could just add in, they have not completed the current ASU Project Cities project yet. The presentation was kind of letting council know where they were headed, what they were going to be doing. We do have the public engagement that's completed. We have the draft of the case studies that just came in my email yesterday. We haven't reviewed that. I'll be forwarding that to you for you to review and look at. And that's the second part. The third part is the playbook document. They're going to have that to us later in July. And then the ASU Project Cities team is going to reform that into a document that we can use for publication and distribution. So we've got a long ways before it's completed. And just wanted to let you know before you make an assessment.
Which is fine, because I don't think we're going to come to a conclusion that says, yes, we're going to approve, or no, we're not going to. But I do want to get some feedback now, so we have some ideas perhaps on the table for what they can do for us if anything.
Mr. Noble, can I ask for some feedback from you as you've been kind of the staff lead with that? Have you found it to be valuable for, this particular project they're working on pertains more to tourism?
So the one is 3 components, the public engagement, and I found that to be really valuable. We had about 400 surveys that were completed. We had a long engagement with the community at the Beale Street Theater. The other 2 components I've not reviewed to really be able to give you an assessment either way. I was impressed with the Project Cities team that decided that the students weren't yet to where they felt they needed to be at the end of the semester, and they were pushing it into the summer beyond the semester in order to get to where they thought it would be of value to us. So I felt like they were trying to make us whole for what the agreement was and the scope of work that we had presented. So I think that that was admirable, and I'm still kind of waiting to see what the end studies show and what we can glean from them. So,
Okay,
so far, a
thank you.
positive experience, but the experience isn't done yet, so.
Okay. Does anybody else want to give some feedback?
Have you had a chance to see at least their preliminary report?
Have not.
Ooh. It was in the last council meeting. I think it's available. Is it available?
Yeah, they also gave a report to this commission last meeting. Yeah.
Now, this was the inaugural project. One of the things that we wanted to do was understand whether this was going to bring future value as well. Is there something that we can put in front of them that has a limited scope but still gives us the value? We're paying a little bit of money to bring them up here, but it's really just to cover some expenses. But I like to make sure that we get value for our dollar.
I personally think that with the project ongoing, that's great. But we should ask staff to bring back some potential future projects that they think would fit now that they've had an opportunity to work with them. Something that would fit the scope of that, and have them bring back a presentation of items that they would be comfortable in having them address.
Okay, hearing no other discussion, then is this something that should be brought to a motion for the staff, or just directed staff?
Is that enough direction, Bennett?
Yes.
Or do you want a formal motion on that?
It is enough direction. And in addition to that, we did budget it in this year's budget in the event we decided to do something, so.
Perfect. Okay, we're going to move to item 3B, the Kingman Tourism Initiative Grant. Staff will share information about the Tourism Initiatives Grant application with the commission, which can help Kingman-based nonprofit organizations support building repairs and structural upgrades that foster tourism and economic development activity. So we're going to have some discussion on this and possible action.
Good afternoon. Welcome. Nice to meet you. I'm Sylvia Schaefer. I'm one of the Economic Development Project Managers, and it's the first time I get to meet you, Commissioner Lewis. Pleasure to have you here. While we're bringing this back, just wanted to bring a little bit further clarification on the Kingman Tourism Initiative Grant. I think there were some questions from the last time when we presented it as to why we were aiming towards nonprofit or the amount, and so hopefully I can answer some of these questions today. So really with this grant, we are focusing on more nonprofits that are related to our tourism industry, and that is why it's called the Tourism Initiative Grant. But the nonprofits would include things like museums and historic sites, maybe wayfinding signs that help people locate different areas in downtown. And really, I understand there was a question asked about small businesses as to why we weren't keeping small business in this particular grant. But our aim is really at the nonprofits such as these historic museums so that we can focus on assisting them in improvements like if they have to renovate their bathroom to ADA requirements, or maybe it's a historic building, museum that needs some roofing. This includes infrastructure and sorts more than the facade improvement program we have in place that all nonprofit and small businesses can apply for. Nonprofits can apply for both the city facade improvement program, but it is limited funds. It's up to 9,000 and 90-10 match, where some of these improvements that are needed by some of these museums can be quite a bit more, and therefore the amount that we're having here is about 30,000 a nonprofit can apply for. It is a 50-50 match. And with that being said, there are organizations in our town that do bring tourism to our downtown areas that also assist, I would say, with the small businesses getting more businesses as well. Some of the examples of some of the places that could apply, this is just a few. Basically, the EV Museum could apply, Mojave Museum of History and Arts, which oversees several museums in our area, Kingman Main Street, if they're interested in trying to do some wayfinding. So there's several of our nonprofits in the area that could apply and assist with our tourism efforts. And also, as we may know, a lot of our nonprofits only have certain ways to raise their funds, really not revenue-based. You have to raise funds to do all these improvements that you need. And in some cases, we've seen some that take some years to raise the funds. So this is another effort we have trying to assist in how we can to boost many efforts: beautification of downtown, tourism, assistance with small businesses, I would say, in retrospectively, because they will be helping each other. I kind of went over a general overview of this, but we'd like to hear back from you, and hopefully I'm answering some of the questions and concerns you had from the last time we brought this to you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is this just a one-time thing, or is this going to be an annual application process or funding opportunity?
Well, let's see. I know we started our our facade improvement programs, murals programs that we did in the past as a trial on the first year to see how it went. Are we going to do the same, Bennett?
So currently, it is budgeted, in the event we do something like this year. Future councils can decide to budget it going forward based upon, feedback and other things. So the goal is to be ongoing, but that can always change.
Okay, so the budget for this is 30,000 total that could be divided amongst, several nonprofits, or?
Yeah, that is the max they can apply for. Correct.
Individually?
Individually.
Correct.
How much does
Is that the
this?
max in the budget?
Yeah.
30,000 is the
Correct.
max in
Oh,
the
okay.
budget.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And there's only one grant recipient, is that correct then?
Nobody has applied. This isn't in process yet. We're still discussing this.
No, I'm
So-
asking, there's only one recipient that will get that each
Potentially,
year?
if
Apologize.
all of the money gets requested and they match it all, there could be one participant in that grant year. If somebody would come in and request 10,000 and they match 10,000, then we'd have 20,000 left in the budget for another potential project.
So to answer your question, yes, they can split it between multiple.
Okay.
That was what she was asking, is if it was one person or if it was
Yeah.
multiple.
And you said no one has applied yet?
Well, this program isn't in place yet. We're still running through the draft of it and presenting it to you at this
Oh,
time.
I thought it was June, I thought it opened June 1st.
This is a draft. That was intended
Oh,
for,
okay. I
that
was
we
like,
would have
oh,
liked
no.
to have. No, this is a draft. It's a draft grant. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Cool.
So we did have, part of this discussion, we did have a nonprofit in the past that had come forward, and you guys had discussed that. We listened to your comments. We went back as staff, and we felt that a program like this would better serve not only this applicant, but potentially future applicants for these type of projects, instead of a one-time type
Singled out.
product.
Yeah, and then when this program is in place, there will be an application process similar to the other programs where the applications will be reviewed or by a team, you know, and so that's where it would be determined during that process. If this goes forward too, once the grant was approved, they'd have a year to improve, like to complete the improvements and request a reimbursement. So it gives them some time. Mm-hmm.
This,
Sylvia, go ahead, I'm sorry.
no,
Yes.
that's all right.
I was just going to say, what method are you guys going to use to notify the nonprofits that this grant is available? Will you send out direct mail to them, or how will you let them know that this is available in the community?
Yeah, typically, we use various forms. We use our various outlets, like our social media, both Kingman, City of Kingman Facebook, Economic Development Facebook. We would probably also partner with some of the organizations like the Kingman Chamber, Main Street, various resources to get it out there. Typically, when we do a press release with our public information officer, much of the media grabs that and takes that and gets it out as well, whether it be in newspapers or radio. It's various forms.
Okay.
I have a question about the ineligible projects, excuse me. It says that projects that do not have a direct impact on tourism will be ineligible, and I'm just curious how you're going to measure impact.
Yeah, that is probably much more of a Josh or Bennett question, but basically, it's kind of easy when you're talking about a museum. That's easy for me. As far as it not impacting, I'm trying to think of one. How would you guys just consider not impacting tourism?
So I think that if we were to identify if it impact tourism, we'd look at the mission and goals of the organization and see if that is lining up with attracting tourism, serving our visitors.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And then within the application, we do have the criteria for it to be a 501c at this point as one of the criteria as well.
I was going to ask that question because you had the 501c3s and the 6s.
4,
and
6.
all of
yes,
those would
yes, yes,
fit.
correct.
Oh, that's, okay, cool.
Yep.
Good.
I'm reading.
That's fine. Let me know if I missed anything.
Has this been approved by council, or is this, you're looking for a
Not yet.
recommendation?
We're looking for a recommendation from the commission. And that's why we're trying to sort through if there's any questions you have that I may not have been clear on. I might as well, while you're reviewing it, like some of the features that could be included in this would include facade restoration, roof repairs, if it's, historic in nature, ADA ramps, restrooms, maybe benches or lighting on the outside, directional signage, historical displays, tourism kiosks, quite a bit more than our facade, and that's why the amount's a little bit more.
Sylvia?
Yes.
How does this overlap with the city's mural program?
I don't have murals in this outline.
It does list murals.
Does it? Okay, thank you. I might have overlooked it in my notes. So really, I think it would just be determined, I think it's kind of up to the applicant how they want to apply. But at this point, if they're eligible for the murals program, the way we have it written now, they're able to apply. Mm-hmm. But it's more like, how do you want to apply? Do you want to use this towards roofing or ADA versus a mural? So they could apply for both.
Can you explain how historic building repairs and structure upgrades intertwine with tourism?
Well, a lot of
Or
our
why those
lot
aren't
of our
separated out separately?
Sure. A lot of our museums are historic buildings. With that being a fact, basically, a lot of the renovations will be to a historic building. For those that are not, then they may not be applying for that improvement, but maybe they'll be applying for ADA or a restroom renovation or a new sign. So it just depends on who's applying, what would be more beneficial for them to apply for, and I hope I answered that question for you.
Yeah, I just feel like it's a little convoluted as far as I'm not sure that the direct tourism impact on a roof repair on a building is easily seen. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that I necessarily like the two of them intertwined like that, but.
Okay, and I can understand that. and I can also maybe state that if we need this building open and they need the roof repair to operate the facility, it's possibly a consideration as well.
So part of the criteria for getting this grant would be up to tourism to really understand where they could get other money as well?
Yes, correct. Like if they needed to complete the project, that is part of the application process.
Okay.
So you actually cannot ask a question. Sorry about that. But, so eligibility requirements, so is it first come, first serve, the first one to meet the requirements and submit an application? Is there a rubric to this? Is it, we get to pick the one we like?
Yes, I understand all these questions. So this is kind of the same route we went when we were implementing our other programs. This is the guideline that we were going with, but when it comes to the actual application process, there was more of a criteria of certain things needing to be met that you will see.
Bigger pool of money though, and they could only apply for a portion of that, so that you're funding multiple projects per year on that?
That will be
Which is,
maybe
which is
direction later.
different, which
but
is why I'm
yes.
asking the question of how do you plan to implement it?
Yes, so at this point, really, we're just looking for some approval of this idea and concept of it, and then
How
we
can
will
we
have
approve an
to-
idea when we don't understand how it's going to be implemented?
Okay, well, our facade improvement programs were similar like this. So when we implemented it, we did have an application process, and we have a checklist that was required of all the applicants that's much more detailed than this guideline. There was review, it was submitted through our grants coordinator. It goes out to a review committee of at least five or six that are reviewing the applications along with the requirements and making it a recommendation on whether or not this application should be approved. There's many times we meet with applicants prior to submittal or during the submittal process because maybe there's something that's just not quite on, and it's like, well, let's talk about this and see if we can help you through this process for something you're trying to get done. But yes, there will be a way to review everybody's application in a consistent manner.
I would personally like to see that.
The
checklist or
application.
the rubric before I would feel comfortable.
Okay?
Sylvia, with that, to kind of tag on to what has been discussed, right now you don't have any applicants. It certainly hasn't been presented to the community yet. What do you do in the case, there's $30,000 in there. What do you do in the case that you get multiple applicants and there could be $60,000 requested? How do you pick and choose who's going to get the money? I think that's kind of where you were going with that. Because, I mean, we don't know. It might not be any applicants. Could you have a dozen applicants? We don't know. I mean, there has to be some criteria that's going to make one project, one more beneficial for the community than the other, i.e. like the roofing project, you can't really see the benefit, where if they're going to do facade improvements or signage improvements, which are going to directly benefit the city and the tourism, I'm assuming that's going to weigh into a stronger factor than repairs that you really don't see beneficial to the tourism program.
I am understanding your question.
Okay.
Yes, and I believe even Josh and I have worked with things that have, like, programs that have rubrics, where we can work on that and bring that to you, if you'd like that at the next meeting. Ben, is there anything else you'd like to say regarding
Yeah.
that matter?
So I want to just hit back on the murals because we were going through the grant.
Okay.
And we don't see murals in that at all, so I don't think it would, murals aren't
It's
part
item
of that.
4B, public art installations, murals, sculptures, interactive features.
Is it in there? Okay, it's on the other one then. Got it.
On the agenda.
Wasn't in my other one.
It's on the agenda, not the...
Take that back.
Oh.
So where I think, there's your criteria question, we currently have a process that we go through with our current facades, and we run out of money every year, and they have to go into the next year.
So then it would be a first come, first served basis, is what you're saying?
First come, first serve, as long as they're qualified
Okay.
based upon the criteria.
Yeah, I just want to know what the criteria was. So it's who submits it first and until you run out of funding.
Yeah, as long as they're qualified and the application comes in and it meets the requirements, then, you know, it would go through the process of approving that project.
Okay, that makes more sense.
It does sound like the consensus is that we'd like to see a little bit more specificity of the
So-
criteria.
What I'd like,
I got it, Bennett.
if the commission
got you.
is okay with this, taking some of the suggestions back and implementing them into this, we still need to take it to council, you know, which they're gonna comment on it and decide what they want to do. But really, this is the same type of program that we've already been going through with our current grants. And so a lot of the questions you guys are asking and concerned about, you know, we've seen them where there's been multiple applicants and, you know, they qualified and there's the funding there to fund it, they get funded. If they don't qualify, then they do not receive the funds and they're rejected.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. I could see this grant is pretty broad, so I could see plenty of nonprofits in our community applying for this funds. That's why I'm asking about how that works. I mean, it has a lot of different components under which they could apply. So that's why I wanted to know how you plan to implement this. Are you picking one in each category? Are you just, or at first come, first serve makes sense to me. I think I could definitely support this if we saw like maybe some of the overlap with other grants taken out. So I personally don't think it should overlap with the facade improvement program or the murals program, because those things, we already have specific grant funding in our
Right.
community for that.
I think we can take that out, and I
Yeah.
think the staff would agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Commissioners, other thoughts?
I think that they're on the right track. I think removing the overlap is a good idea, because then you have almost what could feel like nepotism if it's too vague, and we don't want any of that. And to that point, I think I would have to recuse myself from any type of vote, since I do possibly fit into a category of applying for this. So I'm not sure. I think it's great. And I think that the city would be, or a lot of benefit would come to nonprofits in our community, but just honing in on the details. And it is right now just a one-time thing. I'd like to see it continue on, and so done well, maybe this council and the city would see that as a benefit. So more information in detail is great. I would like to motion to, send it on their way, because council's going to make the ultimate decision and ask, 10 times more questions than we are. But I don't know how much say I get, because.
So is that a motion in support of?
Was it a motion? I don't think I can make
Yeah,
it.
she would not be able to make that motion. It would have
It's
to
just an
come from-
opinion.
Martha, you've been quiet over there. I'm going to ask your opinion now.
I am taking all the information in, but at the outset,
Is
it
your
does
mic
sound like
on?
Green.
I'm pressing it. Okay. Yeah, at the outset, sorry, it does sound like a good idea, but as everyone here has stated, I think it needs to be developed a little bit more. So, and I understand it's still in the initiation phase, but I think if it's developed a bit more and presented in such a way that it would be an easier sale.
I have final comment, pretty much what I said before, but I want to kind of conclude it. I think we don't know what kind of reaction we're going to get from the community on this project, and I think our goal here, I would assume our goal to be refining our city, making some improvements to the nonprofit, give them the ability to get the grant, to do some things that can be noticeably distinguished from the building before. So if we have an excessive amount of applicants, I would like good discretion as to where the best benefit. Again, we talked first come, first serve. If we only get 3 applicants, it's maybe going to be easier. But if we get a bunch of applicants, and some of these applicants are looking to do improvements that don't really benefit our city, our community visually, I hope that there's some discretion in picking and choosing the applicants that will serve the community better. That's my final comment on that.
I think I might have another comment or another question. You said visually. Is this only for visually, or is this for quality of life? Is this a grant applicable to programming and events and things like that that bring that community engagement, and like First Fridays for the chamber? They're a nonprofit. You know, does this apply to them?
This does not apply to that.
Okay.
It would interactive displays and exhibits that tell the story of a historic site, rehabilitation of a historic building, roof repairs, only if part of a broader historic project, like.
So when it comes to historic building, is it applied through the building owner? Say the nonprofit is renting that building, and that's what you said, they can't do business there if the roof isn't eligible, but they could move. And so if you're applying through the nonprofit, or is the business owner or the owner of the building? So there is a lot of,
The tenant can apply with the property's owner permission.
and then the tenant moves out, you know, they go, it doesn't work out, and a year later, they're gone, and there's no community. I mean, the historic building, that's great. I think it's awesome still, but it's just a question.
That could happen.
Right.
You know, but there's a lot of investment from their side also that has to be put into.
Oh, I
into this,
understand.
the way
Yes.
it's structured.
Yep.
So.
Okay, so from the commission, in order to bring this
What
forward.
you're talking about is a clawback of some kind. It's really hard to do that type of thing and then have them get the money back to you if in a year they move out and you were to put something like that in this.
Not a clawback, but just more detail on the eligibility is what I was kind of leading towards. And also, when it comes to the selection process, is it staff, or is there a committee put together of multiple commissioners or community members or things of that nature?
It would be handled the same way we handle the rest of the.
And that's staff.
Staff, you know, different departments. You got finance, our department, and somebody from Public Works. So it's
a committee.
It's different people
Okay.
within the organization.
So it sounds like the actual application we use for our facade improvements or murals is pretty much what you'd like to see, because that's where we have all those details as far as, and even on one of them, there is like a rubric. When it comes to the murals, we had a little rubric on it. Am I understanding that's what you would like to see prior to moving it forward? Or are you fine with moving it forward and seeing that rubric later?
Well, we're going to discuss that right now.
Okay.
So do we want staff to take the direction? Oh, hold on.
I just wanted to clarify one other thing. So the way that this funding cycle would work is a little different than our other grants, because there'd be 1 month where applicants can submit their applications, and then all of the applications are going to be reviewed together. So that's where they'll be scored against each other and then awarded at the same time. It'd be
So
one
not
time.
scored first come, first serve.
Correct.
So there will be some kind of rubric in order to determine the best
Correct.
project.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. So do we feel comfortable giving staff the direction that we've given them, asking them to make alterations and sending it to city council, or do we want to see it come back here? We got to make a motion one way or another here.
Well, I suspect that the council would be asking a lot of these same questions, so it's probably valuable for staff to go ahead and get a little more detail in that in anticipation of what the council is going to ask. Other than that, I think it's a good idea, but you're going to get the questions from the council.
Mm-hmm.
Which we will plan for that
Yes.
when we take it to the council.
We're a good trial run.
Yes.
Will somebody make a motion as to that?
I'll make a motion for them to move forward.
To take it to city council?
Yes.
All right, second.
And those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, not trying to grill you, Sylvia. Okay, we're going to move to item 4A. Economic Development and Tourism staff will update the commission on recent conferences attended. Economic Development and Tourism staff will update the commission on what they learned at the AZ Association of Economic Development Spring Commission and the AZ Association of Economic Development Mayoral Roundtable, the International Council of Shopping Centers, the Preserve Arizona Conference, and IPW. This is informational.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairperson Brittany. What we're going to do is we're going to have staff that participated in those conferences come up and do the various updates. So we'd like to start with Terry Curtis first. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Gish and Commissioners. Happy to be here. I am Terry Curtis, Economic Development Project Manager for the City of Kingman, and I'm very pleased to be here and just give you a couple updates on some of the conferences that I've attended recently. The last one that I was at was the first of which I want to update you on was the Arizona Association for Economic Development's Spring Conference. It was located in Tucson, Arizona. And I think one of the most valuable things that is very important to keep in mind with any of these conferences is the connections that we make at these conferences. The most meaningful connection that I made was with several people who are involved with shared co-workspaces, one of which has over 20 years of experience in developing, maintaining, and managing a shared co-workspace. She offered to share her insights and some of the skills that she has developed over the years with us as we go forward to develop our shared co-work space. So we're really excited about that. The sessions that I attended had some really strong takeaways for the use of emerging technologies and some sustainable economic development. The conference, like all other AAED conferences, also contained some personal development type of sessions, and the one that I did attend was on how to conduct a meeting that people actually enjoy. I'm trying to work on that. It's by planning, agendas, facilitation, and just mapping everything out and keeping it moving. The next conference that I attended was, and I guess I should go back here too and for the spring conference and say that we had a huge showing from Kingman. We had Commissioner Lewis there. We had several council members. The mayor was there, Council Member Savage Ward, Director Bennett Bratley was there, and as well as our city manager. So we had a good showing, and that was mentioned several different times throughout the conference. Everybody, I feel like, gained a lot of information, and it was really well received. Our next conference that I attended was for the Mayoral Roundtable, where this is so important for us to attend and support our mayor, especially when he's participating. He was on the panel with the cities of Winslow, Holbrook, Page, and Flagstaff, and he actually did an amazing job. Again, connections. I had the opportunity to speak with several developers who are interested in coming to Kingman and talk to me about commercial and residential developments. Don't know if they'll happen or not, but it was some good conversations, and we're on the map. Every time we get together, we're getting more on the map, and people are interested in coming here. The conference panelists talked about sustainable tourism and how do you balance the needs of tourism with the needs of the community and making sure that everybody's taken care of and not feeling left out. One of the things that they did bring up is this packet, which is a Appreciate Arizona campaign that our tourism actually participates in and passes these out. They include QR codes to different items that are available in the area, as well as what does it mean to take care of our state and while we're out on the trails, making sure you stay on the trails, and then a bag for trash cleanup is included in with this. The mayor introduced this, and it was well received. Everybody was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool. Let me see," and they wanted to. I had several requests to send these out afterwards. They talked about the sales tax revenue that comes from tourism and how that's dispersed to keep city services going. And the biggest conversation was about broadband. The city of Kingman was so far ahead of all these other communities because of everything that ALLO and WeCom has done here. They have come in and have put that high-speed fiber in, internet connections in, and they're continuing to get all of the connections done and completed here. But we're far, far ahead of all the other communities, and it was pretty cool to be able to. It was a proud moment, let me just put it that way. So that's all I have. Do you guys have any questions about those things? Great, thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Next, we'd like to have Sylvia come up. Thank you, Sylvia.
I have something to give to you guys really quick here. Well, we did go to ICSC in May, and this is a conference. It's called International Council of Shopping Centers, where we go out and meet with various commercial brokers, retailers, commercial developers. Me, myself, I've been attending for about 6 years, and over the 6 years, it's definitely been good to build relationships to many of the companies that we want to see here in Kingman. This year, who also went? Vice Mayor Semelli went with me, Councilman Smiley Ward, Bennett, the city manager, Tim Walsh, and we made a really good team, to tell you the truth. We're a very good team out there. This year, we did put these brochures together, so I was very proud, wanted to show you. One of our newest team members in economic development, Adam Geller, helped us with a lot of this content, and then, of course, Lisa's helped us get them printed prior to going to conference, so it was very useful. It not only has our demographics, because typically we're showing our demographics, but it's showing some of our projects that we're working on, some of the new companies that have come, and including our new retail survey. We love showing what Kingman wants in Arizona, and Kingman, actually, in Kingman. We did have done a survey like in 2019 or so, and I could show you, it's one of our old surveys, but about 3 or 4 of those companies came since that survey was done, and now we have this new one. And there's a few that are looking at us, as well. But that just helps to encourage those retailers we're talking to, saying, we want you here, please. Don't just look, come land here. So they're very interested in this information. We did have about 12 meetings or so, and when I first started, it was actually very hard to get meetings with retailers. I could email and call all day long, and it was very hard. You just have to go to the booth. I would say over the years, we've been gaining momentum and getting great contacts, working with the retail coach who is consistently working behind the scenes, helping us get our meetings together has been good. And just plus some of the relationships with our commercial plaza owners and brokers meeting us there too. We're definitely making headway. I would say we were having targeted meetings because, as everybody knows, we really need some more food places and clothing and shoes places. So that is well ingrained, and so we are hitting most of those companies as we are there. Some notable outcomes, I would say over time, before I kind of say this is where Kingman is, and they're like, oh yeah, I used to stop there. I think I stopped there on the way to California, and it's like, now it's the reverse. They absolutely know where we are. They're excited to see our growth. They're very interested in our commercial locations and the bypass and the new interchanges. So we have a lot of great things going that are helping to bring all these companies that we'd like to see here. With that being said, I always look forward to next year. I guess that's really it at the moment. If there's any other questions related to that conference, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Or any of the reports,
Sylvia?
any of the reports that I just gave you. Yes. Vice
Are you
Chair.
also getting support from Retail Coach?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they help us quite a bit. They have a booth at the conference that we're able to use for having most of all our meetings, which makes it very handy. And then there are two of those reports in there are reports that they gave us too, and those are not just demographics, but it shows our trade areas, which is very large. So having that information on hand while we're meeting with people is helpful, and they set up over half of our meetings. So yes, they are very helpful. And not only do they attend this conference, but they attend other conferences all year long and nationally. These are the ones that our team go to, though. Yes.
I don't have a question, but this is really well done. It's
Thank
impressive.
you. Thank you. I'm glad you like it. We're getting more printed, so if it will ever assist you in sharing with any companies, let us know. We'll give you some.
Sylvia, can you share, were there any retailers of any kind or fast food or eating facilities that were extremely interested in this community that you felt really good about?
Yes.
Can you share?
No. Yes. Yes. There are. And we will always be happy to share as soon as we can share those with you, as always. We're always just as ecstatic and would love to get the news out soon.
Thank you. I
Thank
think we're
you.
good.
Thank you, Sylvia. We'd like to have Josh come up. He's going to give us an update on 2 conferences that he's been able to attend recently, one as recent as this last week. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, Bennett. Chair Geesh, Commissioners. So the first one I'd like to talk about is the Preserve Arizona Conference that was held in May. This is with the State Historic Preservation Office. That was down in Phoenix at the ASU Cronkite School of Journalism. Myself, I attended, as well as Joyce. She is our secretary for the Heritage Preservation Commission. We also had 2 preservation commissioners attend. They're actually supported by their organizations, Commissioner Stagg with the Mojave County Historical Society and Commissioner Terleski with the Historic Route 66 Association. Some of the courses that we attended, including preparing a national register nomination, all about who can make those nominations, what the process looks like, timelines, all of that's going to be really helpful for us because those are activities that we're going to be looking forward to participating in through the Heritage Preservation Commission. Certified Local Government Commissioner Training, which was really beneficial to us since we've kind of been taking this on the last year. We're trying to absorb as much information about the process as we can. America's role in, or Arizona's role in America 250. There is a state commission on this. It really looks like, from what I learned at this meeting as well as what I learned at the next trade show I'll be talking about, it's really down to the local level, coordinating, organizing, and doing any initiatives with that. Archaeology for local governments, and a lot of that is being pushed down to the local level as well, because the fiscal 25 funding for SHPO offices across the country has not been dispersed. That's been withheld at the federal level. Some SHPO offices have already closed doors. Ours could close doors as early as this August if that funding is not released, or an additional or a separate method of funding is not identified. They identified some different funding resources available through the state. So one is for certified local governments, which Kingman is one. We had our status, I think, in 1989, and we have applied for and received an award of $18,917 for us to do a survey expansion. And that's to allow us to identify our historic properties and figure out which ones we'd like to have on our Kingman list of historic places, the national list of historic places, or the state list of historic places. The Arizona State Parks also has some grants. The Heritage Fund is not funded this year. The governor has put in some funding in her recommended budget. Depending on whether the legislature will adopt that or not is unknown. Land and Water Conservation Fund, recreational trails, state lake improvement funds, and, you know, we're not going to apply for state lake improvement funds, but there are some of the other ones that our Parks Department and our Public Works has applied for. In fact, we just had the roof replaced at the powerhouse, or resurfaced to mitigate some leaks that we've had through a grant with them in September. Heirs of Humanities, all of their grants were terminated this year. You see there's a lot of funding that's kind of being pulled back, so it's going to be good when we can find things that we can apply for. The Arizona Community Foundation, this is a really large resource. They've been around in Arizona for 47 years. They're the largest community foundation in the state. They've got $1.5 billion in assets between the different groups. In fact, the Historic Route 66 Association of Arizona, their large grants go through the Arizona Community Foundation. And their three focuses are housing, education, and environment. So we really do have opportunities up in Kingman. And Local First Arizona also talked about their grant funding opportunities. I thought it was kind of interesting. So they had, in the last 10 years, awarded over $120 million. Only about $869,000 of that has been in Mojave County. So that's something that we can really take advantage of. This isn't really grants that the city could apply for because we have a grant writer, but the Chamber of Commerce, Main Street, nonprofit organizations in the community could definitely apply for grants with using Local First Arizona. And then last week, I attended U.S. Travel's IPW trade show that was in Chicago. I participated as a delegate with the Arizona Office of Tourism, and we were in a specifically Route 66 themed space. So because we had a group of Route 66 delegates, all 42 appointment slots were filled. There was a lot of interest in talking to people about Route 66 and getting information for the tour operators to incorporate into their tours. There were over 5,000 delegates internationally from over 70 countries, so it was well attended. My appointments were from all over the world. I had 6 appointments from tour operators representing Mexico and Latin America, 12 from APAC, which includes China and Australia, 24 from the Eurozone, and then 4 from US, Canada. So there was a lot of really good information. I've just got my notes. I haven't gone through all of those to share a lot with you. There are a couple markets that are showing a little bit of slowing this year due to the global headwinds that we're facing right now. That included Canada, France, and the Netherlands. Netherlands was actually my most, I met with 7 people representing the Netherlands, so there was a lot of interest in what we have in Route 66 in the Netherlands. A Route 66 bookazine was produced, and I've actually left it over at my table. If you guys want to look through that, we worked with the Arizona Office of Tourism to have Kingman included into that. So there's a great page that covers kind of our downtown revitalization, the things that you can do in Kingman in each state that participated in the booklet. I don't think New Mexico participated, has information about it. So you've actually, it's kind of cool because depending on which side of Route 66 you start on, in LA or in Chicago, the book flips from each side. So you can kind of start your journey from either side and continue on, which is a really nice feature. We had media that have visited Kingman and will be visiting Kingman because of IPW. So there was a German YouTuber and tour operator group, biking group, that stayed with us a couple weeks ago, and they rode all the way up to Chicago to IPW. Then we have another travel writer, and it's actually the editor-in-chief and senior editor of Plus Road Trip magazine. This is a Japanese magazine all about road tripping that started in Chicago, met with them, and they're going to be staying the night with us at Tin Can Alley on Friday. So we've got a lot of media that's coming out of the that trade show. So it's not just meeting with tour operators, and I think that the Centennial is a really popular topic this year. So we were happy to participate. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions on either conference.
What is the overwhelming trend with international travel this upcoming year, and how do you expect it to change with, or what do you expect? Do you expect the Route 66 Centennial to have on it?
Okay, so that's a really good question. I'm going to answer that in a few different ways here. At the opening session at IPW, Brand USA gave a presentation on what they anticipate seeing, and they anticipate there being a 2 to 4% drop compared to 2024, but 2024 has been an increase over 23, which was an increase over 22. So they're all seeing that as still a really good numbers, because if we're comparing it to such a high year, it's, you know, it's really not that bad. Talking with some of the reps, you know, they're identifying which people in which markets would have the propensity to travel. So they're understanding that some people are going to look at, you know, political news and different things, and they're going to decide, I'm not going to be traveling. They're not even talking to those people. They're finding the people that are more agnostic to those issues and really trying to reach them so that they can continue to have people travel based on their interests. Route 66, I think, is going to insulate us a lot from any of those downwinds. We're not seeing a downturn. We're seeing, if anything, our hotels are kind of flat maybe this summer so far. But our visitation, people coming in, still seems to be really strong. We had a really strong spring, especially with international travel. And I think that that's because of Route 66 and Centennial, and we're going to continue to be, I think, insulated from a lot of the issues going on nationally because of the interest in Route 66.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
So that is all the updates we have in regards to the conferences.
That's my cue to read on. Item B is going to be commercial infill report as requested by Chair Gish in the April 22nd, 2025 meeting. Staff will provide a brief overview of vacant commercial properties, including available mapping, ownership patterns, and the current efforts and incentives to support infill and revitalization along key corridors. Thank you, Ms. Schaefer.
You're welcome. So the infill incentive district is an incentive that we have for commercial development in certain areas. Right now, there is a boundary. I believe we provided you the map to the boundaries with, okay, do you have it? Good. So right now it does have a boundary, but I wanted to give you a little background on this. Really, this program started in 2018, 2019, and it was a citywide effort at the time to waive fees for any commercial development during that time. And those fees would have included building permit fees, inspection fees, review fees. So initially, it was a citywide thing from 2018 to 2019. Then we got more focused into a boundary, which includes downtown, Kingman, Andy Devine, pretty much all the way up to Airway almost. And that's our current infill incentive district boundary. The program was to encourage beautification efforts, infill of vacant buildings, vacant lots, assisting with retail attraction, and more. I would say during that time, we have been really successful in helping many small businesses and national brands to come into various buildings, which, you know, in some cases, like if it's a national brand, requires a lot of tenant improvements. And so if they get fees waived on their building permits and inspection fees, it's very helpful. And the same with small business owners, especially if they're running on a lower profit base. You know, that assistance will help them and sustain their businesses in downtown. So we've had a lot of success in the program. But the one thing I couldn't provide to you, as much research as I did, was actual numbers over the time period of various changes of departments and stuff. It was very hard to get down to like maybe how many dollars in fees we waived, or how many in both periods, basically. But overall, we do know that it helped quite a bit of people. I would say the whole, some of our shopping plazas were very well, were able to take advantage of that. And I think even Culver's at the time when it was citywide. So quite a few businesses, I can say. I wish I can give you an actual number, but that's kind of what happened with that. We also are considering expanding the district to other areas like Airway or Bank Street, other areas where there's commercial vacancies that need to be looked at. I just did a random request to one of our GIS guys and said, can you do a search of how many commercial properties we have in Kingman city limits? And basically, we have about 341 commercial vacant parcels, about 286 total, but I don't have the sizes here. So that could be anywhere from little tiny ones to big ones. So that just gives you a general number. So we have an idea of where these are, and we are working on updating our commercial vacant land and properties map. We do have one, but it needs to be updated, and when it does, I can let you guys know. But that's also another way that we're having information available on the website of what we have available in town. Otherwise, you were asking probably like, well, how are we addressing some of these various properties? A lot of ways. Not only do we have this infill incentive district program, but when we're communicating with the various brokers and staying up to date of what vacancies are coming, or, oh, you still have these pads in your parking lot, please give it a marketing flyer so we can get them out to Retail Coach or the conferences, or we're directly told, by people. So there's so many ways that we work on these various infill, like land, and I would say our next step at this point is that we are working closely with Development Services on what areas we would recommend expanding the district to, because this current incentive ends December 31st, 2025, and we'd like to recommend expanding it to more areas. If you have any questions for me.
Perfect. Will you keep it in the districts you're currently in now, or will you revise that as well?
So far, that's what we have kept. We've kept what we have, but want to expand to other areas.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Is Stockton Hill included on that expansion?
It's one of the many
incentive
ideas.
areas?
So basically, we're proposing ideas of where we think it may be good to, with the Development
Okay.
Services and
So it's
comparing
currently
notes.
not?
Yeah, right now, it's not. Stockton Hill is not on there, neither is Airway or Bank or Wallapai Mountain Road, for that matter. But I would say your commercial corridors that have a lot of your commercial zoning
Okay.
for retail. Yep.
Are you looking at things that are just within the current city limits?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
You say you don't have current reports on total vacancy units in existing buildings or square footage numbers or
Yeah,
something
right
you're gonna
now-
put together?
Correct. Right now, I actually have the information on the vacant land.
Okay.
To do the analysis of buildings would be just a little more timely, but, we could find it. But, yeah, I don't have the numbers on vacant buildings at this time.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful to know, what the total vacancies are, maybe just total square footage. First of all, units, and then maybe square footage to give us an idea of the current, buildings that need to be filled.
Yes, I can do that. Just give me a little time on that one.
Yeah,
Yes.
what makes that hard is, there's properties all over and there's different property owners, and to find out if they're vacant one day and occupied the next, it changes too, on a regular basis. So, staff's time is, limited to some extent. So we do keep track of a lot of the major retail centers, for the different boxes that, are out there and available. Those are easy to, keep track of. When they change, we know they change. If a store goes out, we know they went out. A lot of the smaller stuff is going to be a little bit more difficult, but we'll see. I don't even think permitting notes any of that in and out. So that would take staff reaching out directly to all these building owners to
Or
find
literally
out,
driving around.
or drive around. So
Yeah.
we'll take a look at it
Yeah.
and see if time permits, but I think it will be limited to our time and our, focus.
Or possibly a collective place that those owners that want to put out there that they're looking for tenants where they could just submit that, like self-report that information. That'd be
Yeah, that would
thought.
be a great idea.
Yeah, they could assist us, for sure.
Are you looking only at privately owned properties?
I would say more down the line of commercially zoned properties along the main corridors, whoever owns those at this point. So far, we've only dealt with private, though.
I just wonder because there's also some state land that's within the city limits, but
Right.
I don't know how it's zoned.
Yeah, so not too much state on the corridors. I do know what you mean, though, because sometimes there's some ADOT right away or some more like down that matter. We haven't really run into that as much. Most of the time, it's been like commercial property owners or business tenants that have requested these type of permits that we're waiving fees for. But I'll make sure to look at that while I'm doing the review of the mapping.
Sylvia, one thing comes to mind, just an idea, maybe you can send out surveys to the property owners to see, and a questionnaire as to, what they're building, total square footage is, and maybe what they have vacant, just to give the city an idea where we're at.
Okay. Thank you for that suggestion. So with that being said, if there's no more questions, as we are moving along, we'll be glad to provide you with what we're considering as we're working with development services before we get to it. So what will basically happen is that we'll get to a certain point working on some recommendations with the development services department, and once we get there, then they would move towards being the project lead on that expansion of the district. So we'll be working together and bring them back to you probably as well to speak about it. That's okay. Yep.
I think that sounds good if that
All right.
fits. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, item 4C, Economic Development Strategy Plan and Feasibility Study Update. Staff will give an update on the status of the feasibility study and the Economic Development Strategic Plan and what has occurred since the last EDAC meeting on April 22nd, 2025. This is also informational.
Good
Okay.
afternoon again. The last couple months have been absolutely exciting being involved with these projects. Basically, we've conducted stakeholder interviews. The ones with the feasibility study, we invited you guys to, and you participated in. The ones with the economic development strategic plan, the consultants requested that I give your information to them so that they could reach out to you individually. So if they have not, let me know. We'll get you back in front of them. With these, the Economic Development Strategic Plan, we'll start there. The consultants have taken what they heard in the stakeholder meetings. We have provided a plethora of information of general plan, some of our old strategic plan, what we've accomplished, what we haven't accomplished, some of the outline goals that the city has put out there, all the different things that we can give them for them to analyze what's going on. And they're currently going through that. We are meeting with them on Thursday this week to see what our next steps will be, but they're combining and analyzing all the demographics and everything that they know, including some of the things like how's the I-40 trade port corridor going to affect it? How is the Flying Fortress interchange going to affect us? Those type of things. They're considering all that information. We had a great community tour where we were able to show them all kinds of things involved with that. So once they finish reviewing this, analyzing the information, they're going to be providing us with some updates, and then we're going to be going through the next steps. It's going to probably be a process through to the next meeting that we meet with you guys, but we'll see. We're hoping that we'll be done with the project by the end of July, but no guarantees because we got a late start because of the pause that was put on federal grants. So with the feasibility study, this is so exciting, you guys. If you haven't had a chance to go and do the community survey, please do so. It's www.kingmaneventcenter.com, and there's a survey on there about what kind of facility we want to engage with. Do we want a sporting facility, events facility, or a recreation facility, or a combination of those to support our community and our community needs? As of this morning, we have had 1,320 responses. That's incredible. So we're pretty excited about it. The CSL, the consultants for this, have been on top of everything. We are meeting with them next Monday to go for updates of where we're at and what our next steps are for that as well. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Terry, can you give them an update on CSL and their presentation to council coming up?
I sure can. So CSL, we met with them last week, and they gave us a hour-long overview of what they've accomplished so far. Some of those findings included things like where do we fit in the area and distance for other facilities that are out there? What could we facilitate here versus another community? And with the indoor sports facility, event, or recreation facility, what would that look like? So we went through that, and with that, they are going to present their findings, very condensed form of that, to the City Council on July 1st. So please tune in for that. I kind of apologize because I didn't think far enough ahead maybe to even consider having them do a brief presentation here.
Yeah, I think one of the things, they're going to provide them an update of what they've done to this point, what are the next steps, and just to give the council who initiated this a status. It's not complete, but it's kind of a little bit more than halfway, and so it'd be good for council to hear where we are. It'll be a presentation, 10 minutes or so at the beginning of that council meeting.
Any other questions? Thank you, you guys.
I think that's great. I have not got with the economic development strategics plan, so if you could put me on their radar.
I will have them reach out to you. Anybody else? Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 4D is the request to rename Andy Devine Avenue to Route 66 in Kingman. The community has expressed interest in renaming Andy Devine Avenue to Route 66 to commemorate the upcoming Route 66 centennial in 2026. Staff feels that wayfinding on the historic highway should be a priority to assist visitors with their trips to Kingman. This is also informational.
Correct. So, Commissioner Gish, commissioners, we're bringing this so that you can have some dialogue and we can kind of go over thoughts. But the Heritage Preservation Commission had it as an agenda item at their last meeting where they discussed the possibility of maybe renaming Route 66 or Andy Devine to Route 66. This came about because Chair Terleski attended a Route 66 summit in Albuquerque. It was a meeting where members from all 8 states, the destination marketing organizations, the offices of tourism, as well as the Route 66 associations from all 8 states came together. There were about 200 in attendance, and they discussed the challenges that they faced in preparing for the centennial, the different avenues of tack that they wanted to use to get information out there. And one of the things that came up was the lack of wayfinding, the lack of signage, knowing when you're on Route 66, and in particular, that issue came up with using mapping apps like Google Maps, Apple Maps, because it didn't identify in different areas. When you were on Route 66, it would have the local name of the road, like we have Andy Devine Avenue, and that's how it shows up on ours. So in the visitor center, we do have one of the biggest questions that we get is, you know, where is Route 66? How can I find Route 66? Our staff experiences that. The staff at the Route 66 gift shop experiences that. So it was brought up, is this something that we want to address as maybe a centennial project, reallocating the name of the road to reflect its history. And I think that's what Commissioner Lag had mentioned is, or Stagg had mentioned that, you know, if we were to consider that, then that kind of brings it back in alignment with the history of the road across the country. So that was the basic discussion that was brought up.
Can you also talk about, you know, what their decision was through that process in that meeting?
Yes, so there were a couple motions that were brought up. I think, you know, there are a lot of people that feel strongly either way on the concept, but they did eventually have a motion that they would support renaming Andy Devine Avenue to Route 66, and that's what they passed, based on that discussion.
Thank you.
And you'd like us to discuss this off also or give feedback? Is
Well,
that what you're looking for?
First, update you, in case you guys weren't aware. There was also, I think the newspaper picked it up and ran a survey. They just kind of did that on their own based upon that commission meeting. You know, if it is something that is of interest to you guys, we can bring it back as an agenda item, then you guys can discuss it and see if it's something that this commission is wanting to either support or not support based upon tourism and the things that we deal with.
Well, given the history there, I know at one point the City Historic Route 66 Association, which was run by Scott Dutton, I think at the time, they were pushing the similar agenda, and there was a lot of support in that downtown area for that as well.
I have a question about removing Andy Devine completely, because talking of heritage and history and tradition, there's a deep-rooted history and tradition around Andy Devine, and removing that completely, does that remove Andy Devine Days? Does that remove the Andy Devine Rodeo? Does that remove the significance for those things, because we no longer are representing Andy Devine? And it's just, I mean, that's a lot of years, you know, going back to my grandparents' times, you know, that's what they celebrated and continued on. And that's a local tradition per se, you know, versus this international one and national that we're supporting with the changing of it to Route 66 solely. Is there a possibility of just adding it to the map or having both on there? I don't know how that works, but I'd hate to erase it because it would just probably fade out. And there's a lot of local history.
I think that's a good point, is it was brought up to us that there's the possibility that it could have both. If, for instance, you're going down to Phoenix and you see the Carefree Highway, you'll see it say Carefree Highway, but it also has the 74 emblem on that. And I think that's probably a discussion that we'd have to have with ADOT on whether or not, in the current designation as a historic highway, not a regular state highway, could it have that emblem and then also have the street name? I don't know. That's a possibility, though.
There's no question in my mind that the signage for Route 66, particularly at the I-40 interchanges, is woefully inadequate. And again, adding more Route 66 doesn't really change whether you have Andy Devine or not. You need more Route 66 signage that's particularly from the freeways.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I wanted to ask, hey, Bennett, do you have the results of the survey from the paper as to what the consensus were?
I don't have results as of today, but a few days after the survey was released, maybe like 5 days after the survey was released, they'd had close to 400 responses, and it was, I think, 55% wanted it to remain Andy Devine. Like 1.2% didn't care or didn't know, and then the remaining 40 whatever percent wanted to be Route 66. So it was almost a split. to where something like what Commissioner O'Neill had said would be a better fit if there's a way that you could have both, because there's a lot of people that wanted to see both. But it was a small sample size too.
Right, okay, thank you.
I would just venture and say demographically, who under 40 knows who Andy Devine is?
So, whereas I do agree with you that personally, Andy Devine has no historical reference, for me, but I do believe that as we continue to grow as a city, that it is important to preserve the heritage of those who have, come before and helped to make the city what it is. And so I am a proponent of having it both Andy Devine / Route 66 so that people who come to the city, can identify it and know, what road they're on. Because I was on Andy Devine when I came here, and I'm like, well, where's Route 66? The whole time I'm on it, and I didn't realize. But yeah, so I think it's important that we strike that balance. I think preserving the history and the legacy of those who have been here all this time is an important consideration in renaming roads.
You mentioned the Centennial. Is this a permanent road change or just for the Centennial?
My understanding is a road name change is a very long process, and it takes quite a bit of funding because you've got all the emergency services that have got to be updated. You've got signage on the interstate, which can be pretty expensive. So it would be a permanent change.
Okay, thank you.
In addition to all of the businesses along that route would have to pay for the cost to update their business stuff.
Their collateral, correct.
Collateral, that's a better word.
One final question, sorry. Do we know how long it takes to, after the renaming, to update the information in Google Maps and Apple Maps? Is there a delay?
I don't have that information. I think if this commission was interested in looking at this further, we'd get someone from the planning division who could come in and have more background information on that.
Commission, is of this of interest to look at the potential renaming of the road?
One more just comment. That was an interesting thing. Would it be possible to make sure that we at least get the online presence going and have Route 66 on there, which is going to make a lot of difference to people, particularly tourists, particularly international tourists who are looking, versus the local people who, since, what was it, 1955 or something like that, when it was renamed?
1955.
That's something that may take longer to update, but going online and getting those online pieces going now may be a lot quicker.
Yeah, we can
And more
certainly look into
effective in
that.
the long run.
So based upon the other commission, basically supporting this, those are the type of things that we would look at. But in addition, we have heard from some council members on this, as it's gotten out there, and we'll probably be taking this to council as well, just to, get a feel from them and see if this is something they want us to continue to pursue. So I think that is going to be one of our next steps. And then we can also agendize this to have the discussion further. And depending on what the council comes back at, additional feedback from this group is going to be important as well. So I think that, the discussion's been great. It's what we wanted to start. And I think we can agendize this for our next meeting. But I did want to let the commission know that it could potentially be before council before we get back at it. So.
Well, then should we make a kind of a motion? Because if you have the Heritage
So
Commission that
we-
is in favor, but we're not all together in agreement in
We
the
do.
same
We
favor?
can't.
We
How
can't?
it's agendized, we can't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get it.
We can express our opinions as if whether we want to move forward with it, and I could tell you that I certainly think we should.
I would agree. So Bennett, if you guys could put this on a future agenda, that would be amazing.
Thank you very much, we will.
Thank you.
Okay, item 5 is announcements by commission members. Limited announcements, board and commission liaison reports, availability, attendance at conferences and seminars. Commissioner Wilson, did you want to start since you're online? If you want to gather your thoughts, we'll start then with Commissioner Lewis.
No reports from me.
No reports for me.
Nothing, thanks.
I'm good.
Well, I have a question or comment, or maybe it's both, but not necessarily due to anything that came up today, except a couple things kind of triggered some thoughts. With the talk of economic development, we are Economic Development Advisory Commission, so we talk a lot with the community and the growth and get a lot of feedback. And so lately I've had a lot of the same feedback when it comes to like permitting processes with the city, and there are a handful of different businesses that have been waiting on permits and waiting on, you know, part of their facilities are open, part of them are still waiting on permits. So, and it doesn't seem to run a real line of consistency with the, other than the struggle that these individuals or business owners or developers are having. Is there a different set of planning or permits for, you know, developing a large corporation that's coming in that we're trying to incentivize and bring them in from outside of the area versus, you know, our smaller businesses that are struggling but also investing, you know, $1 million plus into these businesses that they're opening? I'm hearing that they're just having a lot of struggle within, you know, dealing with either due process or personalities in the staffing of the city, and it's just a lot of negative feedback that these people locally are having, getting their businesses up and running. They're running out of money. They're running out of resources before they can get a yes or a no. And, you know, the people that they're dealing with aren't giving them direct answers. Is there, I don't know what to tell them as a commissioner because I haven't had the same experiences. So I would like to think that our staff and our city is trying to help in any way that they can, although I know there is a due process, but those businesses are going to make our community better, financially, quality of life, et cetera. But I notice a lot of them struggling, and I don't know how to address that or suggest that be addressed, but I do think it needs to be considered that these
So this
people
would
are
be
struggling.
a future topic you want to add for the
Yes,
agenda
yes, I
next
guess so.
period.
Absolutely, we could do that. And I would just state that if that does come up, you can always have them reach out to us. We are the business advocate, and we will coordinate meetings, things like that. We do that all the time.
So
based
direct them to
upon-
your department specifically?
Yeah, if you have
Okay.
that, we can start there, absolutely. But Development Services does do a, they do have a scheduled meeting coming up. I just don't have the date. Okay.
Okay, I was kind of just engulfing
But then
the
take the
premise.
conversation offline.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. And then a second comment or something else that I've noticed, and I don't know if this is the appropriate time, it's just where I figured it fit because it's requests or reports or whatnot. I love what your guys' presence, the city of Kingman's presence on social media, and the announcements constantly, and I think a lot of good is happening in our community, and between tourism and economic development and other staff, it's wonderful. And the growth is just, it's exciting too, you know, to know what's happening and how hard our community is working towards things. But then you get on, you know, our social media platforms, which I believe is new for our city and staff to be navigating, and it's getting a lot of exposure, and civic engagement is growing, but the public understanding of like how government actually works isn't quite keeping pace. And it's like a lot of unfortunate misinformation is getting passed around. And so it seems like all of the good news that we're putting out there, you know, is getting like squashed or redirected, or, you know, maybe they don't know how grants work, or they don't know how due process works, or how the finances work. And I wonder if there would be like a practical list of ideas or strategies, which I've put one together so I can email it, but just of things that we could implement social media wise or on our website or something, just to, I know we have the civic or the Citizens Academy, but something like that on a online, come in, you know, like the agreement, it's not just so our social media city isn't bogged down with these arguments or things. If we had like a page or an information site, something that we could be redirecting them to that answered the real questions, because there's no way staff can go online to these social media platforms and answer all of these questions or negate the, you know, the naysayers. And if we were proactive and provided that ahead of time and directed them, hey, if you have a question about these grants, or where do grants come from, or how does the city decide their budget, or, you know, civics, basically. I think that would be helpful, especially in regards to economic growth, because you have people that we're trying to draw into the community from the outside, whether developers or employees. They're going to research the area, and if they go straight to our certain, you know, social media platforms, they're going to read this negativity. And if we could maybe help eliminate or I don't know, be proactive in informing.
So possibly a future report on how the city handles this and
Sure, we could do that. And then I just also recommend that, you know, through this economic development plan, you know, that type of feedback is probably important. So as your contribution to that,
Oh, gotcha.
that'd be great.
okay.
Thanks, Brittany.
You're good? All right, and I want to remind people that the grand opening for El Pollo Loco is Friday. I'm looking at you, Sylvia. Give us the deets. At 10:30?
Is it 9?
9?
I just got back last night.
9:30 is the ribbon cutting. Thank you.
9:30. I should know.
10 o'clock for the food.
Yes, yes.
All right,
That's it.
perfect.
Thank you for that.
I think that was the only announcement I have, other than I think Governor's Conference on Tourism is upcoming, and the dates for that, Josh, is it the 16th and 17th of July?
I want to say it was the 17th, 18th, something like that, correct?
That
And
Thursday.
Commissioner O'Neill will be attending, and we'll be able to come back and report on our findings from that.
All right, perfect. Any other requests for future reports? Okay, we're adjourned.